Hi everyone, and welcome to another video where we get to build our own tip calculator API. We're not going to be building an API because this is a Python project, so we're going to be making use of vanilla Python to do this. This is basically a tip calculator and it's set to easy mode. So I'm just going to be skipping this part and I will just go to this part that says example usage. I think this would give us a clearer view as to what we're actually going to build. And I'll just go over to the functional requirements. But however, I would really recommend that you take your time to go through this and understand the objectives, because if you don't meet the objectives, then you didn't really build the app as you're supposed to. Okay, so I'm just going to read through the example usage and then I'm going to go through to the functional requirements and just dive right into the whole thing. So here we have, consider a user named Jane who goes out for dinner with her two friends. The total bill is $120 and they decide to tip 18% of that $120. Jane imputes the total bill, selects an 18% tip, and indicates that three people are splitting the bill. The API responds with the following values. Total tip is $21.60. Total amount including tip is $141.60. Then amount per person is going to be $47.20. Now, Jane can easily split the bill with her friends, right? That makes a whole lot of sense. Now look at the functional requirements. We have input parameters, which is total bill, tip percentage, and number of people. Then we have the output values, which is going to be the total tip, the total amount, and the amount per person. Okay. Now this is obviously very straightforward, to be very honest. Again, it is set to easy mode and is beginner friendly. So if you're just starting your whole journey with Python, this obviously is going to be a good start for you to bring in all the concepts and constructs, in the Python programming language to real life use. Okay, this is a kind of script where you can actually give to a restaurant to actually make use of, and they can appreciate that. Anyways, we're going to be working quickly, and just to see this, if you don't have any experience whatsoever with Python, I would recommend you check out our Python course. There we just have vast tutorials, knowledge base, videos, pictures, instructions on Python. You get to learn how to build basic commands, script with Python. You understand the Python language very well. And when you do, you can now start building bigger projects and, watching this video and you would understand everything, that we're doing. So just as a tidy measure, let me use that word, all my projects are stored in a folder called projects folder. This is just to make sure that I have everything inside of a single directory, to make sure that I'm able to manage these things efficiently and share as at when needed. I would also suggest you do the same, have a directory or have a folder anywhere of your choice. It could be on your PC, it could be on the cloud, but make sure that this folder contains all your projects you're going to be doing, in the mastering backend projects coding series, right? So make sure you have all of these folders and all of these projects inside of one directory so that you can have everything organized. I think that makes sense. So as for me, I'm going to be making use of VS Code to build my project. And this is because I understand how to use VS Code. That's the only reason. So I would suggest that you hop on your own favorite code editor. If it's Sublime Text you use, fine. If it's PyCharm, if you use Atom, whichever one you use to build software or to write scripts, as far as you understand how to make use of it and you can navigate properly through that software, that's fine. For me, I'll be making use of Visual Studio Code by Microsoft. Okay, so I already have this opened up in VS Code, so I'll just click on VS Code and you can see how it looks like. Here we can just dive right in and start building solution, right? So we're going to create a function and we are going to call this function validates underscore tip underscore inputs. Now I'm going to just run through the function before I explain what is going on, basically, just so I wouldn't have to confuse you at any point. So here we have the first parameter we're going to be taking in is total bill, and second one is going to be tip underscore percentage, and then the third one is going to be non-people. All right, so here we're going to say if total bill is less or equals 0, we're just going to say raise value error, and we're going to say total bill must be a positive number. Okay, so if tip percentage, sorry, is less than 0, we're going to say raise value error, and value error is going to be tip percentage cannot, sorry, be negative, right? So here we're going to say if non-people is less than or equals to 0, sorry, we're going to say raise value, no, raise value error, and here we're going to say number of people must be at least 1. Okay, sorry. All right, so let me just give you guys what is going on. Now, this first function here is called validate tip input, and obviously we expect an input, or we expect inputs from our users, right? And here, we're just saying that if the total bill is equals to 0 or less than 0, we just want to say the total bill obviously must be a positive number, because it makes no sense if your bill is reading minus. Again, here says if the tip percentage is less than 0, then we just have to say that the number cannot be negative. I mean, your tip percentage cannot be negative, it has to be positive. And then if the number of people is less than or equal to 0, we have to value error and just tell the user that, listen, the number of people must be at least 1, right? So this is just to validate the tip input entered by the user while using the application. So we're going to build another function, and we're going to call it calculate underscore tip, right? And here we're going to have total bill. We're going to have tip percentage, and sorry, the tip percentage is going to be default 15, right? And then we have number of people. Let's just set that to 15. And number of people, we're going to set it to a default of 1, right? So the tip percentage is going to have a default of 15. Number of people is going to have a default of 1, right? Now you can make this default, you can change to 10, 9, 5, any one of your choice. But for me, I'll just leave 15 there. Okay, so next thing we're going to do now is to bring in this validate tip input, basically, just to make sure that everything entered by the user is correct. So we're going to say validate tip input, and we're just going to say total bill. All right, so we're going to say tip percentage and number of people, right? So now we're going to calculate the total tip and the total bill amount, basically, just to make sure that we produce the right tip and also the right amount. So here we're going to say total tip is going to be equal to total underscore bill, right? Times total percentage, sorry, total percentage, tip percentage divided by 100. And here we have total amount. I mean, this is basic arithmetics, actually, just add on, subtract, right? Total bill plus total tip. All right, so now we're going to calculate the amount per person. So the amount that each person is, would have to pay, basically. So to do that, we're just going to say amount underscore per person. And here we have total amount divided by, just to space here, number of people, right? And then we're going to return the results. I'm going to return a dictionary here. So here we're going to say total tip is, so we're going to round this up, and we're going to say total tip, and we're going to round it to 2 significant figures. Here we have total amounts, and total amount, we're going to round this up as well too, and total amount, again, round up to 2 significant figures. And here you have amounts per person. All right, so here we're going to round it up as well, and we're going to say amounts per person, and this is going to be rounded up to 2 significant figures, basically, right? So we're going to now create the main function here. All right, so we're just going to call this main, right? So just put bracket there, and here we're going to say try. All right, so we'll say total bill is floats and inputs. So we'll say enter the total bill amount. Sorry. Enter the total bill amount, and we have tip percentage. So tip percentage is going to be floats, and we have input. All right, and then here we see enter the tip percentage, and we're going to tell them that the default is 15%, just like we put the default here. You can see the default here that says 15%. So just let the user know that the default is actually 15%, just in case they do not enter anything, right? Okay, so here we're just going to say number of people. So non-people is int, sorry. So we're going to bring int, and here we'll say inputs. Okay, so enter the number of people splitting the bill. So we'll tell them that the default is 1, right? Okay. Oh, what am I doing? All right. So we now have to calculate the tip, right? So to calculate the tip, obviously we just bring in this function here, and then we can now calculate the tip basically. All right. So let's just do that. So we'll just say results, and we'll say calculate tip, which is the function we just created before this one. Here we have total bill, and we have tip percentage, and we have non-people, right? Which is number of people. And here we're going to display the results. So we're going to say print, and here we're going to say this is an F string basically. But you know what? Let's just do print, and here we're going to say tip calculation results. We'll have another print again. All right. So here we're going to say F string rather. So F should be out. We have total tip. So total tip should be, I'm going to put in $sign, and we're going to put in the squiggly bracket here. Total tip should be results, and we're going to get the, because this is a dictionary, so we're going to access the content of the results, which is obviously this one here, total tip, right? So we're going to say total tip and total underscore tip. So same thing goes for total amount. All right, so here we're going to say how am I putting it inside the bracket? So total amount. All right, so we'll say including tip, right? And this is going to be obviously in dollars, and then we have results, and we'll bring in the total underscore amounts. All right, so next one again is print. That will be amount per person. So print amounts per person, right? And we're gonna have the $sign. Here we're gonna have results, and okay, no F string here. So results, I'll put in square brackets because this is a dictionary, and we're gonna say amounts per person, right? Then except there is a value error, or except there's an error, and let's just call it value error. So just bring it in as E. So we'll say print, and to make this an F string, here we'll just say error, and we'll just put it with, no, not squiggly brackets, what am I doing? We'll put in the error as E, basically. And since we're done with this, we'll just simply run the function here by just invoking it and calling it main. Okay, so let me start afresh and then read through everything till the last line. So line 1, basically we have a function called validate tip input. Now this would validate the inputs that would be entered by our user, which would be total bill, tip percentage, number of people. So if the total bill is less than or equals to 0, we want to raise a value error that says the total bill must be a positive number, which makes sense. Your bill cannot read negative. Now if the tip percentage is less than 0, we want to say that the tip percentage cannot be negative, so it has to be positive. Which makes sense because obviously if you want to pay tip or something, the tip cannot be reading negative, it has to read positive. Now here says number of people. Now the number of people, if it's less than or equal to 0, we want to raise a value error that says number of people must at least be 1. Now this makes sense because you cannot have 0 people paying for a bill or paying for tip or something, right? That doesn't make any sense. Now we want to be able to calculate the tip, so we're going to create a function called calculate tip. Right now, this calculate tip function takes in some parameters here, which is the total bill, right? And it takes in tip percentage, but then it sets the value to 15, which is the default. And then it takes in number of people and sets the value to 1, which is by default, right? Now, if these things don't make sense to you, I would really suggest you check out our Python course. I mean, this thing, we explain it very well on that course where you get to understand what a function is, what all these parameters are, and what they are doing basically. Again, so we have the total bill, we have tip percentage, we have number of people, and we make it equals 1. All right, so now we brought in this function here called validate tip inputs, just to make sure that whatever is coming from these parameters here, are in line with what we've specified here. All right, we're just going to now with this function here, we're going to check that total bill is not less than or equals to 0. We're also going to confirm that the tip percentage is not less than 0, and we're going to confirm that the number of people is not less than or equals to 0, right? So now we'll make sure that check is good. We're going to put in a variable here called total tip. Now the total tip is going to be total bill, all right, times the tip percentage divided by 100. Now that would basically give us the total tip, all right, that we're going to be paying for. We're going to be paying for the food or for the whatever we got from the restaurant, right? Now we have the total amount. So the total amount is going to be total bill plus total tip, which is this one here. And then the amount per person is going to be total amount divided by the number of people, right? So that would now give us the amount that each person is meant to pay, including the tip. Then we are going to return this in a dictionary so we can access it individually. So here we have total tip, we have total amounts, we have amounts per person, basically. Okay, so we have the main function, which would allow the users to interact with the application, and then we call it main. All right, so we have the total bill, which would convert any imputed number here into a float because we're dealing with currency. All right, so we're going to let the user impute the total bill amount here. And then the tip percentage obviously is set to float, so which means that it converts any number imputed into floats. And then here we're going to say enter the tip percentage, and then we're going to tell the user that the default is actually 15, just in case you don't enter anything. Now the number of people here as well too, we're going to convert this to integer. Anything that has been entered in this input will be converted to integer, and we're going to tell the user that he or she should enter the number of people splitting the bill, and if they don't enter anything here, it means that it's going to set the default to 1. Okay, and how do we know that the default is 15 and 1? From this calculate tip here, you remember we set the tip percentage rather, to 15 and number of people to 1. All right, so here we have the results variable, and the result variable basically would call this calculate tip function, and we're going to pass the total bill, tip percentage, number of people. So we're going to pass this into here, pass this into here, pass this one into here. So we're going to print the tip calculation result. We're going to say total tip. We're going to just say results. So the result basically is this one. And because this is a dictionary, we're going to access the different components in this dictionary, or the different, I don't know, keys. That's the right word actually. Different keys in the dictionary, not components. Yes, so we're going to extract the different keys in that dictionary and just display. So here we have the total tip, results, total tip. Total amount is obviously including the tip, which is results, total amount, the amount per person, which is results, then amount per person, right? Then if there's a value error, if maybe the user entered something wrong, we want to just, print out the value error and let the user know what they entered wrong, basically. Then line 38 just says main, which is basically saying that when we run the app, this is what is going to be triggered. So let's see how that works by running this and just following through the process. So if I should click on this play button here, okay, let me just delete, hold on, let me just delete this one just to be sure. Okay, let's click on this play icon here, and you can see it's loading. Now you can see here it says enter the total bill amount. Total bill amount, let's say it was 2,000, right? So 2,000 USD. Click on enter. Tip percentage, let's say, okay, we want to pay a 10% tip, basically. So we're going to say 10. All right, so number of people splitting the bill. So let's say I work with my friends, let's say we're 4. We'll click enter. Now you can see here it says the total tip is 200, right, dollars, and then the total amount is $2,200, and then amount per person is going to be $550. Makes sense, right? Okay, let's try again and let's see. So let's clear things up and let's just enter something wrong. So let's just say chili here. Now you can see error could not convert string to float chili. Now it's basically telling me that it was expecting a float or was expecting a number, but then we entered the string, right? So the reason why this is happening is because of this catch we made here on the except block. You can see where it says, if there's a value error, we should just let the user know that there was a value error. Okay, so let's clear things up. Let's just be serious, right? Okay, let's enter a number. And so let's enter the total bill amount. So let's say total bill amount is say 500 USD, and then we'll press enter. So enter the tip percentage. The default is 15. So let's say we want to pay a 5% tip. So we'll just put in 5. Then number of people, let's say we're 2. Now you can see that the total tip is 25. Total amount including tip is 525 USD. And then the amount per person is going to be 262.5, right? So I mean that's just basic. That's just a basic way of calculating the total tip, total amount, and amount per person. So just go through this project, see how you can even make it better, add more functionalities to it. If you have any error or you're experiencing any error or any bug that you just can't figure out what the problem is, you can feel free to reach out to us and we'll review and then see exactly what might be wrong. Basically, just make it better in your own way and happy coding. I'll see you in another video. Bye for now.